Hey guys, thanks for jumping into the pond. I'm Doug Vlog, and this is my guide on Bellona. She is one of my favorite champs. Her leader ability is move a unit up to 2 tiles away, which at first doesn't seem that strong, but positioning and board control is very important in Hand of the Gods, and Bellona has that in spades. First card up is Blink. Move a unit up to 3 tiles away for 0. You don't see it too much because she can already move up to 2 for 2. But Blink isn't too bad. It lets you set up some interesting trades, and it combos with a lot of the cards that we're going to go into. Discord. Move all enemy units to a random adjacent tile. If you don't see Blink that much, you definitely don't see Discord that much. Moving all units to a random adjacent tile can kind of mess you up. It can group them together. It can break up the grouping that you might want for certain spells. So it doesn't get played that much. It's more of a combo piece. Next up is Pinned, and Pinned is what combos with Discord and Blink pretty well. Enemies who move this turn are stunned. At first glance, not that powerful, but it only costs 0, so you can play Pinned, you can use a pull, you can play Cupid for a massive stun. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. You'll see it a lot in the upper Bellona decks, and you'll see it occasionally in Arena. Next up is Advanced Maneuver, another card that lets you control the positioning on the board very well. You swap the position of 2 units, so you can put something that you need to swing with on their side and take something that you need to kill onto your side. It's not a bad card, but you won't see it too often. Next up is Promote, which just got a buff. Replace all friendly units in a 2x2 area with a random unit that costs 1 more. It only costs 1 to play, and it's a little tiny square. That's what the 2x2 area is. And you can use this to turn your threats into even bigger threats. You can use it to remove poison. You can use it to remove stuns. You won't get to swing unless you pull something that has haste. But it's a very interesting card. Has a lot of fringe uses too, like playing Construct, which is down here, and then promoting them. That's a very strong early game play. You could promote Terra, go in and swing with Terra, she's a 6/6, and then promote her, and maybe you get something with Charge that lets you swing 10 to 11 damage a turn just by playing Promote on that Terra. Next up is Armaments. Draw cards until you have the same number as your opponent. It's a really good card draw for 2. It lets you effectively throw everything in your hand away, and then you just Armaments and get exactly what they have in their hand back. It's really good against a controlling passive player because it just lets you keep having threats, and you eventually can just overwhelm them with cards. Next up is Bombard. Deal 2 damage to an enemy. If you control 3 or more units, deal 4 instead. Bellona has a lot of kill spells, and she deals 4 damage very easily, so you don't see Bombard that much, but it's pretty fairly priced. A little bit tricky to get 3 units out at times, but it's a pretty decent card. Bulwark. Your summoning stone cannot take more than 3 damage from a single source. You don't see this that often because often Bellona's very powerful, so you just want to keep that power up, run a lot of threats. So Bulwark doesn't come out that often. It's mostly just there to prevent things like 1-turn kill combos and stuff like that. Next up is Construct. Deploy 3/0/3 Obelisk. And Obelisk are very interesting. You can see there in the tooltip it has 5 range damage. That's not true. It's a 0/3. It's just a little bit of a bug. But the Obelisk are best for blocking up their summoning positions. And maybe like if it's Odin, he's trying to get through, you can throw up Obelisk in front of his front row so he can't run straight at you. Its best use is probably with Promote for a turn 1 triple 2-drop play. Next up is Demoralize. Reduce the attack of all enemies by 2 until your next turn. You don't really see this in Ranked. You mostly just run into this in Arena. And it makes sure that you can effectively trade out with everything without dying. It's not bad. It's very fairly priced at 2 mana, and it's a pretty decent card. Next up is March. All friendlies gain +2 movement and +1/+0 until the end of your turn. March is really good for when you're stuck on your side of the board for some reason. Maybe you're all the way in your back row, they're all the way in their back row, and you can't quite get there. You can March to make it happen, and it gives you a little tiny damage buff. March is also something else you don't see that often. Next up is one of the cheapest legendaries in the game, Nox. Enter a friendly unit and give your attack and health as a buff to that unit. Nox is pretty interesting. She buffs while ensuring that if they silence or kill that unit, she comes right back out on the board. She's not too hard to kill, only having 1 hit point, but she is ranged with 2 damage. Nox is fairly popular, and you'll run into her fairly often. That little bit of extra oomph can really make a Bacchus hurt or a Bull Demon King or something just really hurt. Next up is Shackle. Select 2 adjacent units. If they move away from each other, both take 3 damage. Shackle's pretty good. Shackle in a pool, it's 4 mana, 3 damage to 2 units. It kills a lot of things. It's a pretty good answer, and it's pretty hard to play around. You can also slow them down just by shackling them and making them move their units together on their side of the board, so you don't always have to kill them right away. Just be careful that they don't silence their units to get it off of it. Another trait to play in Shackle is you can shackle the unit that you're swinging with to their unit, and then when your unit dies, it'll pop the shackle. So don't think you only have to use it on theirs. You can select any 2 adjacent. Next up is Tenacity. Select a friendly unit. Whenever any enemy moves, that unit gains +1/+1. You have to be careful with Tenacity because it's really weak to the silence, but if they don't have an answer for it, Tenacity is incredibly hard to play around. You always get a pull in, so you can always get that +1/+1. It combos really well with Gladiator, with Discord, with Blink, those cards that we showed you earlier. You can use those to really good effect with Tenacity. And it hurts, it makes a huge unit, it does what it needs to do. Really good in Arena. Next up is Bacchus, and Bacchus is probably the best 3-drop in the game. At the start of your turn, Bacchus drinks his wine and gets an additional random effect. He either gets +1/+1, Protect 1, immune to melee, or attack all adjacent enemies. If you play Bacchus on turn 1 and you get immune to melee or attack all adjacent enemies, you can basically just win the game if they don't have a silence. He's really hard to deal with and requires them to have an answer immediately or suffer. Next up is Bolster. Give all friendly units adjacent to other friendly units Protect 1. At 3 mana, and being so conditional, making you have to have your units beside each other, it's not really that great. Protect 1 doesn't save that many units. It does let you get a couple trades in your favor, but it's not that great. You don't see it that often. Next up is Halt. Deal 1 damage and root all enemies in target column. Halt's a little bit pricey at 3, but it does deal 1 damage and it does root. Having to put them in a column's a little bit hard, because early game you're not going to have that free movement, so it's mostly just used for finishing off some units or maybe stalling a little bit. Mercury's the other 3-drop that you're definitely going to want to run. He does randomly deals 1 damage to enemies 3 times, so yeah, he does 3 damage, but it's random, so it's a big gamble. My Mercury's always seem to hit the tower, but if you're lucky he could take out a 3-drop. It's easier to gamble on a 1 hit point or 2 hit point enemy. Mercury can usually get in there and kill one of those. Next up is Rain of Arrows, and you're going to see Rain of Arrows in place of Halt pretty often. Select a 3x3 area, deal 2 damage to all units not in the selected area. Now this is really good. Just make sure that you have your units inside that square, like use it before you move them and start trading. And it'll wipe out a lot of things. It'll wipe out Arachne and Zeus, wipe out all the 1/1s, wipe out zombies, wipe out Bastet cats. Make sure you swing a Bastet and not just use it on her so that you kill all the cats. Next up is Sprint. Clear a friendly's exhaustion. Now, it's not charged, so you can't use it on a unit that's just been played, but it's really good in a couple situations, like if you have a Fury that doesn't take return damage, running it over on their board, on their side of the board, hitting a unit and then sprinting it to kill another unit is really good. You can use it to get 2 movements in on 1 unit if you really need to close the distance just to kind of lock in the game. Sprint's good for that, but you don't see it that often. It's kind of tricky to get full value out of. Warburden. This is a card that you very rarely see Bellona's play. Target a unit. The owner's cards cost 1 more until the unit is removed from play. Bellona kills everything so easily that you often don't need Warburden. There are very few targets that are actually worth using Warburden on. Maybe you get value out of it for a turn or two, but normally you just kill him. You play a kill spell or something. Next up is Battle Rage. Deal 2 damage to a unit and give a friendly unit +2/+0 until the end of your turn. Battle Rage is pretty good. It costs 4 mana, so it's a little bit expensive. It only deals 2 damage and it gives you +2, so it's better if you have, maybe they've played a Cupid and you have something weak that can kill one of their other units. You can Battle Rage, kill the Cupid, buff yours, get the other trade in. It's very situational. Next up is Cupid. Warcry. Stun an enemy unit and knock back all enemy units adjacent to the target. This card is great with pinned. Lets you set up a huge stun to their side of the board. The only downside to Cupid, he has a lot of power in his attack, being a 4, but his hit points are very low at 2. He dies to just about everything. So be careful when you play Cupid, because he's not going to be too hard for them to answer. Next up is Venus, and she's the exact opposite. She doesn't have that much damage, but she has a good chunk of hit points, and whenever an enemy unit moves, it takes 1 damage. She's really good at locking them in place, and she also turns your leader ability into a 1 damage spell. So you can really set up some good moves with her, especially if you're running Caldera Nova and pulling them onto fire pits. It's really good. Venus is definitely one of the cards that you're going to want to craft. Bludgeon. 5 mana, deal 4 damage to all units in target column and knock them towards their leader. It's a little bit of extra damage with the Venus. It's 5 if you have Venus out. And the 4 damage in a column is really good. If you have Gladiator out to get the free pull, if they just happen to stack them in a column, Bludgeon really hurts. And it kills most of the early game cards that come out. Really good card. You're probably going to use it fairly often, arena or rank. Next up is an Enlist, and I always run one Enlist in my Bellona list. It's really good. It deals 3 damage to an enemy and it spawns a Venator. So it deals 3 damage and it gives you a 5/3. You lose the +2/+1 buff from Venator, but the 3 damage by itself is normally more than enough to make up for it. Getting an Archer out is very good because it's hard to answer Archers in these games. So running Enlist is definitely something that you want to be doing. Hercules. Deal 1 damage to an enemy unit and pull them to you. Hercules is really good for answering cards that they just want to sit in their side of the boards. Maybe they've played a Janus and you need to bring it over and kill it. Boom, Hercules, really good. Combos with Venus for 2 damage. You can pull it on a Caldera Nova Pit for 2 damage. It's just a really good card all the way around. You can combo it with the Pinned for an extra stun. And then you pull them onto a Caldera Nova Pit with Pinned out, and that's 4 damage. So Hercules has a lot of value, a lot of situations where you can use them. Next up is Janus. During your draw step, reveal the top card of both decks, draw 1 and place the other on top of your opponent's deck. Janus is kind of interesting. He's not too strong, being a 3/5, but he is an archer. He's 5 mana, so normally they have enough to like execute, or they have some threats of their own they can play at this point. But if your Janus stays safe, he normally locks down the game because you control exactly what's going into their hand unless they're using extra card draw. Stealing their bomb, stealing their delve, for example, is just really good, and he works great. He works great. But you have to kind of be careful with him. You might not run him all the time. Next up is Outmaneuvered. Return a friendly unit to your hand and deal 6 damage to an enemy unit. This is Bellona's biggest kill spell at 6 damage. The only downside is you're going to want to try to find something cheap, maybe your Nox if that's out on the board, to bounce back. Or you're going to want to trade with the unit first, get a little bit of damage on it, and then outmaneuver. Don't outmaneuver before you use your unit. Make sure you get something out of it, and then outmaneuver. Use it to answer things like a Brute or a Terra that you might not be able to get otherwise. Recycle Cupids maybe. A lot of plays you can make with outmaneuvered. Next up is Vulcan. Spawn an Inferno Cannon in adjacent tile. Inferno Cannon is a 2/3 ranged unit. So stat wise he gives you plenty, but you don't see him too much because normally the Inferno Cannon is pretty easy to answer. And while he does go a bit wide, there are better cards for your 5 spots like Hercules, Janus, and List. So Vulcan often doesn't make the cut, but he's not too bad a card. He is a 4/4, he does make a 2/3, so that's 6/7 in stats for 5. He's pretty solid. Next up is Caldera Nova. If you're running Caldera Nova, you pretty much need to have Pinned, or if you're running Pinned, you pretty much need to have Caldera Nova. It puts 2 lava tiles on the battlefield when the match starts. They're always in the same spot. And if you explode them, it deals 1 damage to adjacent enemies. So drawing Caldera Nova is kind of bad. Most of the value comes from you being able to pull the units to those tiles and get that extra damage in. Next up is Dishonorable, and this is Bellona's probably her best kill spell, unless their board's really heavy. Deal 4 damage to all enemy units who are not adjacent to other enemy units, so you can easily set this up with your pool. And it's just really good. 4 damage kills most things. It doesn't discriminate between gods or neutrals. It just kills. It's really good. Does a lot of damage, really easy to pull off, sets up for some big plays. Next up is Sylvanas. He's a 5/4 archer at 6, so he's pretty powerful. And his afterlife is becoming a sapling. A sapling is a 0/3 structure, and at the start of your turn, if the sapling has not been killed, it is destroyed and spawns Sylvanas. Sylvanas will have summoning sickness when he comes back, so you have to be careful about that. But playing Sylvanas is normally pretty good. He's hard to answer. He's really good in arena. They have to make sure they have 7 damage just to take it out. They're not worried about any damage from the sapling, but Sylvanas will normally kill whatever they swing at him with. So he can make a very tricky or difficult situation for your opponent. Next up is Terra, and you're always going to want to run Terra. She's a stun on an entire row. A 6/6 for 6 that stuns about everything. She's really good, and you'll get a lot of value out of Terra. Make sure you grab 2, and if you're in arena, grab 2 or 3. She's great, she does her job, and she just sets up plays so well. And finally, the best finisher in the game, in my opinion, Power Delve. Discover a unit that costs 7 or more and reduce its cost to 0. Power Delve's great. Bellona actually has some of the best Isis plays because she can Isis at 7 with Power Delve, and she can hold it if she wants to and then play a bunch of more units the next turn. She can pull extra fire giants. She can just pull anything that she needs with Power Delve, and it's really painful. It's really hard to play around, and it makes Bellona one of the strongest finishers. She is just a beast. Make sure you put 2 Power Delves in your deck. I always recommend them. And if you're in arena, definitely grab 2, maybe 3. Make sure you curve out properly, but squeeze in as many delves as you can. Thanks for watching, guys, and make sure you tune in every single day at twitch.tv/doggodfroglog for more guides